Good evening.
Good evening. How are you today?
Excellent.
Good.
Kirsten, I can help accept people in the call.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Mhm.
Good to have everyone here. This seems to be a popular topic, Danny. What do you think?
I think everyone needs major gifts.
I see
in their
Lulis, I
life.
see Nicola, I see lots of familiar names and faces.
You have Vicky Tate in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So before we jump in, I wanted to just say a couple of things about the topic today, because I know that we all struggle and we all have concerns about our efforts and our major gift solicitations. And so this topic is really, really important. And there are a number of things about this. So we're not going to go through the textbook steps today, because this is not about following a textbook format. This is really about building relationships, about strategizing, about having some tips and tricks and tools that you can use, and ideally giving you some confidence to get out there and just start planning your major gift asks. And I was really excited because in the last couple of weeks, I've worked with two different groups, separate groups, that have launched some very significant efforts in their major gift solicitation. One has a 501c3 with an NGO in Panama, and the other one is located here stateside. So if we wanted to say that there's a big difference for one, no, major gift solicitation is major gift solicitation. But they're seeing incredible results. And part of that was just through gaining some confidence and really putting together a strategy to go after their major donors, whether it's calling all of the donors in their database, or making a list of the ones that have donated recently, or whether it's finding a way to connect face-to-face with individuals that have given previously, not necessarily for an ask, but just to connect with them on a human level. It's tremendous. So we're excited to talk about this today. And again, we're coming out of here hopefully with some action items that you can put into practice right away, some tips, and we've got some technology bits and pieces that we're going to glean from Danny, as well as some great ways that you can incorporate AI into your major gift solicitation. So welcome everyone. Good to have you all here. And should we jump in? All right, Danny, do you have anything you want to say before we get started?
I'm just excited. It's Tuesday, it's August. Let's go raise some money.
Let's go raise some money. Let's make this a strong finish for the end of year. All righty. Okay. So let's see. Okay, here we go. I think we finally got this figured out. All right, you all pretty much know who I am. All right, so let's first talk about the myths. So this is what we always hear about. Major gift solicitation is focusing on the wealthy. And many of you probably know that's not exactly the case. It's not how we should be thinking, but that's typically what we do. We think, oh, we've got to go after the wealthy donors. We always think donors are different here. No, my donors here are different. They're not going to give. No, the donors, in this part of the country, they act differently. It's not true. It's really not true. At the end of the day, major gifts are major gifts. And this is about humanity. This is about building relationships. This is about stewarding donors. It's about finding a comfortable, appealing place for them to give their contributions. Donors don't have specific interests. Oh, my nonprofit is so specific. We have such a niche. I just don't think we're going to be able to find major donors. Also not true. I can just find them online. Oh, I could just go online and find some major donors. We don't need face-to-face visits. We just need to create one formula for everyone. And that's the approach we're just going to use. And that should be what will work. We can't ask for more than what these donors normally give. That's another myth. We should try and stay within what they normally give. Well, that's fine, but the whole concept of major giving is stretching them. So finding a way to get the donors who give at this general level to move up into another level of giving. And the other myth is that we should ask for a gift every time we're in a one-on-one situation with them. And sometimes that one-on-one only happens once a year, and we think, oh, so this is the time when I'm supposed to have to ask them for money. Unfortunately, it creates this sensation of them anticipating being asked every time. So now we're developing a bit of apprehension. And what we want to do is move away from that. We want this to be such an authentic and comfortable relationship that there is no sense of apprehension. There's just a sense of, ooh, I'm so excited. I'm going to find out what they're up to. Or I wonder if my gift was part of that last major project that they launched. So this is the thinking we want them to have. This is the feeling we want to inspire in them. So if we're going to dispel those and really talk about the reality is they want to give. And being willing is actually more important than being wealthy in this case, because if they're wealthy and they choose not to give, then that's not helpful to us. They may or may not want FaceTime with you. Everyone's different. There may be people that are transactional and they're quite happy to get some information from you and have a Zoom call, have a phone call, and they'll give a gift. And then there are others that really do cherish that face-to-face relationship. And maybe you have an organization where there's something to show, where there's somewhere to go, there's a tour that you can give them, there's an event that they can be part of. So it all depends. It's very unique. Donors are not locked into the same amount each time. Finding donors that are not already giving to you takes time and referrals and research and creativity, and you probably are not going to be able to just find them online very easily. Now, can you find information about potential donors online? Absolutely. Can you use AI? Absolutely. We can use all of these tools, but it does take this effort. It takes, it's like any big, if you're going to sit down and write a paper for college, you are sitting down, you're planning it out, you're coming up with your outline, you've got your strategy. It's the same concept. There is no magical formula. And it's all about the relationship that you or the organization or your board members or your ambassadors are building. That is what's key when it comes to the major gift fundraising and the success of your major gift fundraising efforts. So if we think about major gifts, we're looking at the idea of introducing new donors who could potentially give at a high level, but maybe they start at a lower level. We're thinking about moving our current donors into another level. So if we feel that we have exhausted all of the possibilities, externally, let's say you just feel like, wow, I've scoured, I've been to networking, I've been to Rotary and Chamber, and I'm just all over the place. Well, then we need to look inward and we need to think, okay, so what do I have at my disposal? I have a database with donors that have already given, or maybe just an email list. That's very possible as well. I have board members that I could be really using for some prospecting efforts. I have an existing donor base that I could ask for referrals. So, what I'm saying is we're not tied only to this, we want fresh, new major donors. There are always people that I used to hear this expression when I was a hardcore development person, that your donor database already has all of the ever need. I don't know if that's entirely true, but the concept is you have to mine what we already have. Okay, so what we want to start with is this building a culture of philanthropy. What does that mean? That means we don't approach it with this attitude of, oh, I've got to go do some fundraising. We approach it with the perspective that we're going to build deep relationships with people that is going to encourage them to give to our organization and create a sustainable entity into the future. So we're giving them an opportunity, but it's something to be proud of. As I've said many times before, your organization is worthy. You work hard, your team works hard, your board works hard. You deserve to raise money. So that means we need to honor this effort with the right approach. And if you believe in the laws of abundance and attraction, all of that, great. That means don't have a negative attitude. Don't approach this as though it's a chore. Approach it with joy. Approach it with the right attitude. And we'll talk a little bit later about how to handle sort of when you get stuck in that rut and you think, oh man, I've been declined by, 2-3 people this week. What do I do? We'll talk about that. But really, the fresher your approach, the more novel you are, the more creative you are, the more authentic you are, the better your results will be. We want to be clear externally about how much we need the funds. And I know that there are donors out there that think that your organization, yours, is so put together that you don't really need the money. So are we expressing to them clearly enough? Are we telling them that we have a goal this year and we have not met our goal? Are we telling them what will happen if we don't meet our goal? Who we're going to let down? These are all really, really important things. So we must be clear about the importance of fundraising to the organization, and we have to train everyone to be an ambassador. And I do mean train. I mean, what is the script? What do we tell people? And we all need to be on the same page. So let's say I am giving a tour to someone of the organization and I'm stepping in for someone else because they're out sick today. And a donor says to me, oh, so what's the fundraising budget this year? And I'm not able to answer. So having some core elements, I would say maybe 3 great anecdotes, great stories to tell about the organization, the fundraising goal for the year, how far we are from that goal or how close we are to that goal, and maybe 1 or 2 other things that you think, maybe your personal mission moment, right? So what is it about the organization that you feel so passionately about it, or that brought you to it in the first place, or that another donor has talked about, or how a life has been transformed? And then make sure that you have the resources. So resources can be everything from, I have some prospecting materials, I have a committee to support me, I have a donor database to track all of my activity, maybe I need an assistant to help me with my thank you letters, I mean, whatever it is, but just make sure you have your resources there. Okay, so this is typically what happens when we're going after major gifts. We know that the annual giving process is pretty straightforward. People expect it. It can happen throughout the year, but they typically expect it between October and December. They expect to be asked for a gift. When it's major giving, because we're not locked into an annual fund scenario necessarily, it could be, but often major giving sort of falls outside of that. It's a special circumstance. Yes, you may be sending those donor communications out anyway, but you're going to make an extra special effort with this individual. And if it's a major gift and you ask for it in November and they don't give it till February, well, you got that sort of circly roundabout path. And I think if we accept it for what it is up front and just set expectations and say, you know what, I'm just going to go with the flow. And I know that there are going to be a couple of twists and turns in this, but I'm going to stick with it. I think that's probably the biggest takeaway, is to not give up. Don't give up until you're told no. And if you're told no, maybe it's just not this year. Maybe it will be next year. Maybe it's, some other time, maybe it's a different amount, but it is a little bit of a swirly path. So when we talk about resources, one of the areas that I'm really, really, really passionate about is the development committee. I think this work is so much easier if we have people around us, if we have people that we can run ideas by. And by the way, it doesn't have to be a professional development committee. We're not talking professional fundraisers. If you have them, fabulous. If you have access to them, if you have board members that have been development chairs. Most of my training was from individuals who had served as development chairs in high-level boards. And they took me under their wing as a newbie doing this work 20 years ago and taught me how to go about this process. So it is definitely beneficial to have people with expertise. But if what you need are 2 or 3 people that you can bounce ideas off, they can help you do some research, they can help hold you accountable and you can hold them accountable, you have a committee. So what's important? You meet every week without fail. you meet. That is a given. There is no negotiation on that, because the moment you take your foot off the gas, your efforts start to dwindle. And the more time that goes between the last time you reached out to that donor and you attempted an ask, or you attempted to reach out, and the next time, the lead starts to go cold. So that relationship starts to go cold. And if you have weekly meetings, it really does help hold you accountable. It keeps people on task. If you've assigned some research about donors, you'll have your team come back and say, yep, I've got my research on these 3 people I was supposed to look into last week, or I've made these phone calls, etc. It should be a closed and highly, highly confidential group of people, meaning we do not discuss the background of our donors and prospects with anyone else. We don't talk about their capacity to give. We don't talk about their past giving. This is not a broad topic to be, explored at a board meeting with 13 people sitting around the table. We want to be very, very respectful. And, there are times certainly when people have given, it's not anonymous, and absolutely it can go in an annual report and so on. But when we're talking about strategizing, we're talking about even things like, where did this individual go to school? Are they married? Do they have children? What church do they go to? I mean, these are private details of people's lives. So we're leveraging it for ourselves to help inform how we want to approach people. And it will inform, by the way, because you may take a softer tone with someone that is very spiritual, or has maybe gone through a traumatic event in the last few years, and perhaps there's some connections, alignment with the mission of your organization. So closed confidential group is really critical. It can include board members and donors, or it can include individuals that are just, they have your back. So if you don't have board members and donors, I know that a lot of people say, oh, well, I can't form a development committee. I don't have sophisticated donors, or nobody, or board members, or they don't have time, or I can't really ask my donors. We just don't have that kind of relationship. Okay, who has your back? Who can you align with? Who's going to help you in this process going forward? The development committee has to have some processes in place. You must be organized. So whatever that looks like for you, if you have a project management system like Asana, and you're assigning tasks in there, or Monday or Trello, or whatever it is you like to use, that's great. If you want to just use good old-fashioned spreadsheets, that's fine too. But you should have the name of the solicitor. So whoever's going to be making the ask needs to be very clear in that spreadsheet. Obviously, the name of the potential donor or prospect, any notes. Definitely keep track of every single time you communicate with them. This is where a donor database is so helpful. However, unless your donor database has a way to segment by groups, or has a way that you can filter into a smaller group of people that are being, I don't want to say targeted, but prospected. Let's say that's a kinder, gentler way to say it. A spreadsheet works just fine. And you may have board members that, don't even really want to get into the donor database, and they're quite happy to have a spreadsheet. So I've worked very, very well with spreadsheet. And what I do is I then transfer the information into the donor database. So, but having that information in there, including who is going to reach out, when they're going to reach out, what the next step is after the reach out. So you have your development committee meeting and someone says, oh, yes, I spoke with these 3 people, and this one said I can call back, in 2 weeks. Okay, where is that going? We're going to call back in 2 weeks. Where are we putting that? Are we putting that on a shared calendar? Is it going in the spreadsheet? Who's going to track it? So in that respect, I think a project management system is probably super effective. And by the way, Danny, jump in anytime if you have some thoughts on this as well.
I'm just putting, I love it, but I'm answering some questions on the chat about, is it going to be, the information is so great. They're like, is it going to be recorded? Can you share the deck with us? And I'm like, it's all on the Kannico Impact Library website. Here's a link, go sign up. Yes, please. Great information here.
Yes. Okay. I'm pretty sure it is recording. Okay. Yes, it is. Okay. All right. So then this development committee also must show up prepared to every meeting, meaning they did their homework, they did their work. And that means, to be completely candid as well. So if you're sitting in a development committee meeting and you're being assigned 10 things and you will not be able to get them done I'm sorry, I will take 4 of these and I will have the results for you. Now, if I am finished with that and I have a little more time, great. But preparation for every meeting is essential, really, really, really critical. We cannot make headway. We cannot chip away at this unless we have people that are showing up prepared and willing to do the work. This committee also has a great, grand, incredible vision for the future of the organization. They must. They have to be excited. They have to be enthused. They have to be motivated. They are critical because this is your cheerleading team. These are your champions. These may be your solicitors. It may just be the people that are going to sit with you every week and help you process and figure out what the next steps are. But we want positive people, positive, excited, energized people about the future. And so
Kirsten,
they
what
are.
do we tell people? Sorry, what do we tell people with smaller staff or boards where it's like, the 1-2 person operation and there really isn't a committee there? Is it talk to friends and family? Is it
Yep.
sit down and visualize
100%.
this and practice the conversations?
Yes, exactly. It's friends and family. It's your network. Who do you know from church? Who do you know from your chamber, your Rotary? Who's in your network? Is there another group that you're involved with, maybe that someone would be willing to volunteer a little bit of time with you? I realize you have to be careful because obviously you're not sharing donor information is that's important to be cautious with that, but figure out people that, your best friend, your sister to get you started. I mean, just figure out who's on your team, who's on your side that you can really bring in for something like this. Danny, you may have some other suggestions, but I feel that not everyone comes out of the gate with a sophisticated development committee. I've seen many of these morph over time from a very, very scrappy grassroots group of moms that just said, yep, we're going to help our girl out here because we're in our tennis group together and she needs some support, to a high level group of board members that had development experience. So, and the good thing too is that as you start to do this work and you have success, you get momentum, and then you start to attract other people who want to be part of this, because success just attracts other people that are excited and they see that things are happening. And wow, that $50,000 gift, that was amazing. How did they pull that off? So it does start to create this little bit of a snowball effect, which is great. So it's everything from the prospecting, which is the initial seeking out of major donors. And prospecting, by the way, is your own database. You are prospecting in your database. It's the solicitation, so the actual asks, and then the relationship building, the stewardship. What does that look like? What is our process for that? Have we even mapped that out? What does that look like? Someone makes a gift today of over $10,000. What happens tomorrow? Is somebody going to call them? I say yes. I say a board member should call them. And if not, it should be the development committee, or it should be someone, the executive director. And then what happens? And then what happens? So that whole journey really does need to be mapped out. Really important. And you should try and do it ahead of time. But if you have to do it on the fly and you have to do it with your first couple of very successful asks, that's fine. Just come up with your plan that you're then going to put everyone through. And then, of course, the renewal of the gifts. So one organization that we're working with currently had 3 renewals from last year of $50,000 each that they're working on. And one has already come through with no problem. The second one is pretty close, and they're working on the third one. And it's face-to-face communications with them. I would say probably it's a 1 in 3. So I would say two of the face-to-face or phone calls or Zooms over the course of the year have been non-asks, completely non-asks. One is the ask. And the non-asks included everything from, well, I know you're back seeing our organization and you were here last year. What do you think about what we've done? How did you find, the classrooms this time? Or what did you think about this? So really just finding out how donors feel about how we've spent their funds and other people's funds. And the renewal process, I think, can be augmented significantly with things like a stewardship report, unsolicited. So within maybe, let's say a donor gives a gift in February or March, maybe by July, they get a stewardship report in the mail, old school. Very cool, right? Everybody loves to get something. I mean, these days with email, it is very, very hard to keep people's attention. I like something in the mail, and you could get it printed with Vistaprint or something. It's not terribly expensive. Postage is not terribly expensive. It is well worth it for your major donors. It also gives them cause to share that and show it to other people, which is great. Okay, so let's just think about how we figure out how many of these outreach efforts need to happen in order to actually get the gift. So these are very general guidelines, but they're sort of standard development to manage your expectations, really is what it comes down to. So we're going to only count the people that could be a major gift, a major donor. We're not going to count just the general population, because obviously then the numbers would be much higher. So if we're talking about current donors or volunteers who have the capacity and the willingness, the inclination to give, it will typically take you 3 to 5 of these prospects for every gift. One of the things that has come up over and over again is what exactly is a major gift? What constitutes a major gift? And it really does depend on the organization. Industry standard is somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000 above really is what would constitute a major gift. I would say if you look at the average of all of your gifts, look at the higher end, just, you know, if the majority of your gifts are $1,000 is the maximum, and you've had 1 or 2 at 5 or 10, I would say maybe 5 or 10, 5 and above is a major gift. So it sort of depends on the organization and people's giving history, but 3 to 5. Okay, so if we think about the people that we're communicating with as prospects, so maybe a board member gave us their 10 new names for the year. This is something that we'd like to encourage people to do, is ask your board every year at some point to give you 10 names of people that you can add to your mailing list or to invite them to events coming up. And so those people you've been communicating with, it's going to take about 5 to 10 of these to get one gift. So if you want to be really, really dramatic about this and you're starting to get a little down on your efforts, just think, okay, well, I just need to get to 9 because the 10th one hopefully is going to be my yes. I mean, that's just, sometimes that's the way I look at it, very much from a sales perspective. And I just say, okay, you know what? So that was 1. It was 1 person who said no. Oh, that's 2. Okay, I'm getting closer to my 10. I didn't think I'd have to go all the way to 10 to get my 1, but so be it, right? So if you put that little bit of a different lens and look through a different lens, you can manage to wiggle your way out of what could be some pessimism or being a little dispirited when you start to get declines. And by the way, the declines, those are also not where we give up, right? It's a decline possibly for now, but it's not necessarily ever. And you never know, these people may still continue to give you an annual gift. They just were not in a position to give you a major gift. Okay, friends of friends, people your board knows, 8 to 10 of those. People you haven't met. So let's say you have a list of people that you've put together. You will need some meetings, and you will need about 10 of those for every gift. So we do need to have our fundraising goal in mind. And ideally, if you have a project that you're looking to fund, that's very compelling. And so we want to look at these groups and just figure out how many people do we have and how many potential gifts do we have. And if you wanted to come up with a gift pyramid, which is sort of a fun exercise, and I think it's very helpful for board members sometimes because they just don't understand when you think of the pyramid and you have a few major donors at the top and you have a lot of lower end givers at the bottom. Sometimes they don't understand that you need every level. You need that base of supporters that's going to bring in your $50,000, $100,000, $250,000 a year, just as much as you need the $50,000 givers at the top. And the beauty of this too is that over time, if you take good care of your donors, if they feel very valued and appreciated by the organization, and they're getting phone calls and they're getting updates and they're being asked for their opinions, or they were asked to be part of a focus group or something like that, they will move up the pyramid. It's wonderful. They will get more and more excited, and as they're able to give and their capacity allows, they will give bigger gifts. All right, how are we doing on questions, Danny? Do we have any questions that have popped up so far?
You're on mute.
Sorry, I was on mute. I said you're covering everything so much. Everyone's just speechless, Kirsten. They're just like soaking it in, taking notes. Eduardo's
Either that or they're
applauding
making a
you.
long list of
No,
questions.
Luis is giving you the finger snap. Like you're just getting like I haven't even said a word. I'm like, just go with it, Kirsten.
Love it.
I'm gonna let Danny speak. Don't you guys worry. He will get. There was just a lot I wanted to cram in.
Yeah.
And I want to give you some motivation and some excitement. All right, so solicitation strategy. Solicitation strategy is a very fancy way of saying, who are you going to ask? How much are you going to ask for? And how is this going to take place? Who's doing it? Where is it happening? When will you do it? So if we think about a quick way to just get going with this, get your 10 prospects together and create a profile for them. So you can do some research, you can look in your donor database, but get 10 prospects together. Start with 10. In fact, as the committee, just say we're going to start with 10 and see how we do. Great. We'll tackle another 10 next week. This is the other thing. The bigger you make this project, the more daunting it is. And the slower you will be to act on it. And we don't have the luxury of time. It is August. After August comes September. Now we're getting closer to the end of the year. So I like to make some asks around the middle of the year. So this is a very, very good time. People are just kind of getting back in the groove. You know, if you had reached out to them in June and July, they're like, oh, I'm on vacation, not around, not checking emails. Now is a really, really good time. So August is a great time. And whatever fails in August, you can come back around in November and December and say, we still haven't met our goal. And we're counting on you. This is so important to us. We cannot launch this new program without your help. So create your profiles, develop a well thought out request for each person. Why does that matter? Because everyone is different. So it doesn't matter if it's the same program and you're asking for the same amount of money that you're going to ask the other person, but what do we know about this individual? How can we frame this in a way that they will appreciate? Are they, for example, an attorney? Oh, well, an attorney might really appreciate something that's very carefully spelled out and very thoughtfully presented, and maybe has some facts about, I don't know, risk management for this new program that we're launching. I don't know, but it really, thinking through how you're going to present this is going to give you a much better opportunity of success. And so coming from the request, the well thought out piece, now we actually want to think about how am I presenting this? What is going to resonate with this person? Maybe they would like to have something in their hand. Maybe they wouldn't. Maybe it's not the right time yet. Maybe I just want to sit with them and have a great conversation and tell them about our needs and ask them, what can I give you? What can I do that would give you something to think about, really give you something to ponder on this? I've seen everything from pulling out an iPad and showing a few slides. I've seen pulling out an actual, like a case for support that has been converted into a mini request. I've seen nothing. I've seen things sent after the call. I've seen video asks I've seen a lot of video asks as well. So maybe you have the meeting and then you follow up with a Loom and you talk a little bit about your request and you say, and I wanted to show you a couple of things and just talk you through this slide deck because it just seems so bland if I just email it to you. So personalize it. I loved our lunch. One of the things you said really resonated with me, you know, about how you've cared for injured animals in the past. And I just wanted to take a minute and show you what exactly we're going to be doing with this project. Let me show you some slides. So you do a Loom and you do a screen share and you show them some slides. I mean, you know, but think about what the presentation for each prospect may be. Now, it may be right now, you're just going to do the same thing for everyone. That's fine. That's fine. But when you're able to, and as you feel more comfortable with this process, I would encourage you to think about how you can really tailor this a little bit to each individual. So how are we going to know when a donor is ready to give? They do give signs. They start asking a lot of questions, and they're bold about their questions. So don't be surprised if they ask you things like, so how much do you make? Or how much is what percentage is salaries of the annual budget? Don't be surprised, because they will ask you those questions, but it's all a sign of interest and concern for the organization. They'll return your phone calls. They will bring friends, their network, associates, people that they work with. They may offer to host an event. They may offer to host a golf tournament for you. They may offer to do something like this that you think, wow, that's amazing. They're just going out of their way. These are signs that they have a lot of confidence in the organization and in you and in your board and the work being done, that they're willing to kind of open their network up to the organization. Giving advice, that's a great indicator. They come to events. They start talking about themselves and the organization as we. So, well, when we launch this program next year, or, you know, and this happens a lot with volunteers too, that get so embedded in the organization and you just never know their capacity to give, and they will adopt this entity and then become major donors themselves. They ask questions about the fundraising. How's the fundraising going? How close are we to the goal? They ask how they can help, and they start to hang around. And hang around could be figuratively, it could be in person, obviously, but these are good indicators of readiness. So let's think about how we're going to make the ask. It all comes down to practice. I really like a script because I come up with the things I'd like to talk about, pick out some key phrases, and I start to just kind of memorize it a little bit. Not memorize it to the point where it sounds very rehearsed, but know that I have 4 major points I want to make. One is about this, one is about the funding, one is about this, and one is about this. So but if you script it, you can sort of imagine yourself talking through it a little bit. So it's helpful. You then want to actually rehearse it. So before you sit down with a donor, you are rehearsing, and then figure out what you're going to be leaving behind. So make those preparations as well. Know your talking points, figure out how you're going to handle questions like, oh, well, you guys had that big scandal last year with that executive director who got fired, huh? That was crazy. How are you going to handle that? Oh, those 2 board members. Yeah. Is that true what they said about those board members and scamming? I mean, just figure out how you're going to handle some of these things, because they do come up. And, you know, just be authentic, be real, be transparent as much as you can be, but just figure out how you're going to overcome some of these things ahead of time. Figure out how you will ask for the meeting. That's an important one, because what we don't want is to spring this on them. We want them to know why we're meeting with them. I'd like to talk to you about our fundraising goal for the end of this year, and I'd like to talk to you about how you may be able to help us with that. We really need all the support we can get right now. Would you be willing to have a conversation with me in person or on the phone or on Zoom, whatever? How are you going to structure the meeting? I'm a big fan of in person, but these days, you know, Zoom, phone call, that's just the way it goes. And I would say be respectful of time, but ask how much time you may have, because there are some donors that have all the time in the world and would love to hear the whole story and would love to engage in a much longer conversation. But figuring out that synergy at the beginning is really important. And then the small talk is very, very, very important as well. So there has to be a time at the beginning where we can really talk a little bit about family or about summer vacation or their daughter who just got married, or there has to be a little bit of a rapport, because we're building that relationship. These are friendships, and they will become friendships. Believe it or not, these people will become your friends, because they're receiving something of value, you're receiving something of value, you've done this in an authentic way, and they're obviously admiring of the work that's being done. You're proud of the work being done. And so there's this really nice relationship blossoming, and you should feel that there is a friendship that's coming out of this. Practice out loud. And then of course, ask for the donor's thoughts or input. And this is the way to ask. So, Mary, we just talked through our plans for 2025, where we are on the budget for this year, and our shortfall, because we are still $53,000 short between now and the end of the year to actually launch the new programming in January. What are your thoughts? Is this something that maybe you might be interested in supporting us with? Would you consider making a gift of $20,000 towards that shortfall of 53? And then you sit quietly and you wait, and you just wait. And I'll talk in a few minutes at the end about how to figure out what the number is so that they don't fall out of their chair and, have a heart attack on you, but also you don't come in so low that, they're like, really? But you're raising $1 million for this capital campaign and you asked me for 20, when you know that I could give 100,000. So you don't want to leave money on the table. It's this balancing act. We'll talk a little bit about that. Okay. So relationship building, this is really important too. So this was all the part of the stewardship. And so when you have those two in-person meetings versus the one ask, or the two opportunities to chit chat with people versus the ask, or maybe it's a board member calling to thank the donor for a gift, a couple of weeks ago. How did you originally get involved with the organization? This is so interesting to me because you're from New Jersey and we're down at wherever, the Keys. And I'd love to hear, how did you even heard about us? Why did you decide to start giving? Why do you continue? Why is it important to support our mission? What do you love about the organization? What would you love to see improved? And if there's one thing you could fix about our community, what would it be? So these are great ways to engage your donors and get them conversing with you, get them talking to you. The richness of the organization's sort of human fabric comes out of engaging people and getting their input and getting their thoughts and getting their feedback. And some of the best programming that I have come across in the past has come about as a result of a donor who had seen it done somewhere else. And they said, so when I was on the board of such and such, I saw this, and would that be something that you all would ever think of implementing? Brilliant idea. So you just never know, right? So there's a lot of benefit to the process, this natural process of relationship building. So I'm going to pause there. I know Danny has some things to talk about. Oh my goodness, look at all these people. It's so funny because I can't see anyone when I'm in the presenting. So do we have any quick questions here?
They're on the chat. Yeah, there are a couple on the chat, Kirsten.
Okay, great. Let's see. Okay, we've already answered that. Well, let's see. Are there any that haven't been answered? Okay.
It goes to the question of like, what would be, if I read it to you, my question would be, what is the best form of soliciting a potential donor, solicited directly or unsolicited letter?
Okay, so if you're starting with a letter, because you're starting with a letter, that's just what you've decided to do, I would offer an introductory letter about the organization. Hopefully you have enough to lead you to think that this person is interested, right? So we're prospecting hopefully in a place where we think this person already has some sort of interest. So I would make it an introductory letter and an invitation. Would you like to have a call with me? Would you like to come by? An event is the perfect opportunity to introduce and have this letter kind of as your motive for reaching out. So if you can find a way, or the organization has an anniversary coming up, we're announcing a new slate of board members. So if there's something noteworthy, especially if they live in the same geographic region, and so there's sort of a community feel to it, that's a great motive for sending a letter. I just don't think there's anything lost in doing that, because if you send a letter and you want to make a phone call, you have the excuse that you've already sent the letter. So I'm following up on the letter I sent last week. Oh, you didn't get it? Well, if you have a moment, I'd love to tell you a little bit about the organization. So you've got, and In Spanish, we say entrada, right? You've got an angle in already. If you've sent something and you're following up with a phone call, with an email. But I think, I mean, there just aren't, unless you're getting an introduction, sometimes a letter is the only way to go, right? A letter or a 2-page something with some information about the organization.